Okay, here we go, you guys. Sorry. Yep, here we go. We're now live. Okay, excellent. Beautiful. Good morning. Good evening. Good day, everyone. Uh, Here it is again, Sunday night for a lot of you guys, and the end of a week. And here it's a new week for us over here. But you know what? If you guys are the one thing that suffering is almost like, I mean, suffering brings you to the moment. It keeps you really right now, and so does joy. It's very strange in that regard. And if you're anywhere between suffering and joy, then you're lost in the world of illusion. You're lost in the world of make believe, of the future that we think is going to happen, and of the past that we're certain happened, even though he says it didn't happen and she says it didn't happen, and they, so the past is really controversial. The future, like, wow, definitely controversial, right? I mean, does anybody here know what's going to happen by the end of today? I don't. I didn't. So anyway, and then what else have we got? What else you got going on besides tomorrow? What could be tomorrow and what could have been yesterday? Then we have what it should be and could have been, should have been, might be, maybe, and if. Okay, and we know that none of that is, except we also know that that's unfortunately where we spend 99% of our lives, unless we're suffering or in joy. And the reason I bring this up is because I work with you folks every day. Every day. There's not even a day off. But, and I know, and I apologize to everyone for. I know that there's a lot of people that really want to connect, and sadly, hi everyone. Yeah, Melanie. Okay, I hear you. Okay, anxious. Okay, we got to talk about that anxiety. But the extremes of life are what bring us to the moment of now, right? They really bring us now. Good evening, everybody. What I want to do more than anything, everyone is looking for an answer to their situation, and I get it. I that's what I want to be able to provide. But and it's very difficult for me to explain to somebody who's in pain and somebody who's suffering and somebody who's just doesn't want to hear anything but how do I get rid of this pain? How do I get rid of this fear? How do I get rid of this? Okay, and that's what I want to talk about. I'd like to address that at the beginning, because I'll tell you, I read over every day. Hey, everyone. L.A., yes. Place I used to live. I grew up in L.A. Can you imagine? Imagine that. Back when it was, I think it was in the pre-communist era. You got anybody remember that? When Los Angeles before the communists took over. Oh, wait a minute. Did I say something politically incorrect? Oh my God. Oh my God. Never ever want to be politically incorrect, do we? Anyway, yeah, LA used to be great. Fantastic. So does San Francisco and California, San Diego. Yeah. So everybody, you guys are still living there are fantastic. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the place and the laws and the government and what is this? And Gavin Newscum, is that his name? Newscum, I can't remember. Gavin Newscum, or is it Old Scum? Can't remember. Anyway, so Uh, what I want to talk about, and this is very serious, everybody. So please listen. I know you're looking for people to. You're looking for some. There's an answer. There's a thing. But I just want to tell you something. I can't, and I don't know how to tell you. You know, for those of you who have some sort of belief in different kinds of spiritual disciplines, it's easier to get an inkling of what I'm talking about. But I want to tell you about words. Words are very important. You can ask Adolf Hitler. You can ask Stalin. You can ask Obama. You can't ask Joe Biden. It's not possible. It's not possible. First of all, you can't find him. You never know if it's him or not, but whatever. But anyway, you just ask any of the people that are, ask Trump, any of them. It's words, words, words. They are extremely powerful, and they get you. They've got us, and it's called linguistic manipulation. All right, and this all started, and I promise to get done with my book soon. I promise. But anyway, and that is, it's all started. It started about, I mean, for our era, our current Rockefeller era. And what's really weird about the whole thing, if you understand the whole tiered system and the thing like that, I mean, like the Rockefellers are like part of a larger, more sinister type group. Yeah. So are the Rothschilds part of something that's even more sinister. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about politics or whatever, geopolitical or whatever, good versus evil, whatever we want to call it. What's going on the planet today, never been more clear, ever been more clear. But anyway, one of the most important tools they use all the time right now, 2 seconds ago, and 10 seconds from now, they use, it's linguistic manipulation. Okay, they keep us in their game, and their game is a game of death. I want you to know something. When you walk into the hospital, please remember that. Now, I'm not saying this to scare everybody. I'm just saying it to make a point. So please do that. And I read some of your comments, and some of you guys think, I don't know what you think of me, and I don't know why you even listen to me. The way you think of me. Oh, he only tells us stuff that's what not to do. Not true. Not true. I'm pointing out why not to do certain things and when you should. And I never said don't do surgery. I never said don't do radiation. I just said do it at the right time and know what that time is. And when you have to do it, take the appropriate precautions. That's what I say. So back there on whoever you were in, I don't know, TikTok or whatever it was, you guys, don't take me out of context, okay? Because I'm here on your side. I'm not charging for this. I don't want anything from this. You know, I love doing it. I love talking to you all. I love sharing this information. This is a time in humanity where we all need to be each other's brothers and sisters and share what we know. Okay. I want to get rid of monetary systems. I hate money. I hate money. I can't even tell you how much I hate money. I think that money, when money is between two human beings in any way, their relationship suffers and cannot be authentic. That's how serious it is. And the beginning and how it ever came to be that we had this stuff called money, which is nothing. I don't care if it's gold. What can you do with gold? Can you eat it? Can you have babies with it? What can you do with gold? It's pretty. So is a flower. Flower is more beautiful than gold. Sunset. You will see some of the sunsets I see here. You think gold is beautiful? Take a look at the sunset. You want to use the word awesome appropriately? Come out here around 6 p.m. and say, wow. God did it again, man. Does these portraits for us. Okay. So I'm not, I know I sound like I'm digressing and all that sort of thing, but I'm not. I want you to understand the power of the words, and they use these words to keep you afraid. And when I talk to people, and when I read your stories, believe me, I have to, I read your story that you send me, and then we have our consultation. And my heart, like, I can't believe what you guys go through. You men, and I'm using the term, please don't be offended, anybody, okay? I'm not thinking right now of whether or not you have a penis or a vagina, okay? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm trying to use a pronoun that comes out of my mouth naturally, and I hate the fact that I even have to stop thinking about what I was talking about in order to make sure that I didn't offend somebody who's probably going to be offended for something anyway. But I am so, like, blown away by the suffering that you guys go through. And what I see happens is this: from the very beginning. Now, I'm telling you, every professional organization in medicine, I don't care if it's neurology, urology, if it's nephrology, if it's gastroenterology, oncology, whatever it is, every one of them is a professional society to which you must belong in order to be cool, in order to have your credentials up on the wall. Okay? Yeah. And what you're doing when you belong to these is that you're agreeing to use their algorithms of what is appropriate and not only appropriate, what you must say and what you must do under certain circumstances. In other words, it is directing what we call medical services, medical care. Not the people you're sitting across from. Even though that doctor who sits across from you and says the most things that I couldn't say to someone. I could never tell somebody they're going to die because I don't know. Or I could easily say to somebody, we're all going to die because we were all born. I mean, that's just the way that is. But I mean, that's all I can say. All right. You want to talk about miracles? I've seen miracles. And they're not miracles. You know what they are? They are the way life works. Was it Einstein that said everything can be viewed as just something ordinary or something as a miracle? Ask a little 4-year-old to look at a fly, and you're going to see the 4-year-old is going to look at the fly and see, wow, blown away. We lost that. We've seen too many flies, and we're jaded. But a fly is still amazing. An ant is amazing. My finger is amazing. Okay, life is amazing. It's a miracle. But in terms of I've seen people who were beaten up by the medical profession in ways that I can't even begin to imagine, who went on to live normal lives. And I have talked to them 15 years later. Yeah. So, but it always comes down to one thing. You've got to escape. I'm telling you, I don't believe me, but I'm just telling you. Okay, if you want to believe anything I've ever said or ever will say, what you have to escape is their words. You've got to get rid of their words, of their paradigm. Don't use their words. You've got chronically fermenting cells. So do they, so does he, so does she. Yeah, yours may be in a situation that is different than someone else's. That's absolutely true. And there's pain and whatever's going on. I agree 100%. I agree 100%. But don't let that snapshot of who you are be who you are. Because who you are is a dynamic being. Okay? Dynamic, changing at the rate of 37 million new cells per second. All right, that's all. Quickly, you're changing. So you're not anything. So we can't take a picture and say that's you. And taking a picture is putting a word on something. And putting a word on something is giving it what we call diagnosis. So you say, I give you a diagnosis. You are stage 2, 3, whatever. No, maybe from a specific certain kind of perspective at that moment, that may have been one of the ways of describing what could possibly be seen. You have to understand how far from the truth this is. Okay, so don't believe it. Don't say to me or yourself or your wife or your husband or your kids or your mother or anybody, don't say to them, I am. That's all not true. And I know you don't understand. I mean, I know I'm not getting through because it's too difficult. You grew up in this. I grew up in it. Fortunately, I learned very young the truth. I was blessed. That's all. I was blessed. I didn't have to unlearn the absolute, excuse my English, it's not French, my English bullshit. It's absolute bullshit, everything they're saying. Well, when I read, I gotta think twice now in I don't know, a couple of weeks. They did some biopsies on a patient. They did some biopsies of a lesion. They love that word, lesion. You know what it means? You think it's an important word? You think it means anything? What's a lesion? Figure it out. It doesn't mean much. Doesn't mean anything, really. Think about it. You can have a benign lesion, a malignant lesion. You can have, whatever. It's just a word that they throw around that makes them sound smart. They found something. Yeah, they found something. So what? Here's a lesion. You see this lesion? I got a lesion. Anyway, so they biopsied. I remember this one woman, they biopsied her 3 or 4, 5, 6 times. I don't know. And they could not come up with a diagnosis. What is a diagnosis? A diagnosis means they are going to give a histological definition. What's histology? Histology is microanatomy. It's a way of describing tissues, right? You have to understand tissues. Liver cells look like this, and kidney cells look like that, and brain cells look like that. You got to understand the microscopic anatomy and microscopic form. What was the other word? So that's what they say. That's what they call it. They call it that. And believe me, if you want to frustrate one of those white-coated freaks that call themselves doctors, if you want to frustrate them, tell them, I'm not going to get a biopsy. I don't want a biopsy. No. Oh, my God, you got to have a biopsy. Without a biopsy, we don't know what you have. What do you mean? It's not that they don't know what's going on. Yeah, no, that's true. They don't know. But anyway, they want it so they can stick it into their sales algorithm. It's a sales algorithm. This algorithm will tell them which products and services to recommend. Now, it's a special kind of recommendation they do. It's not just recommend. It's my opinion that you do something. No, it's not this. That's not how they do it. If you don't do this, you're going to be dead in 2 months. That's called sorcery. It's a number 100% lie. And I had a beautiful woman this week. Was it this week or last week? Anyway, I hope you're listening, and I won't mention your name, of course, but she had, what did she have? She had an unusual place for these chronically fermenting cells to begin. It was in her gut. In fact, the small gut, the end of the small gut called the ileum, and it was a type of cell that usually doesn't develop into chronically fermenting cells. Occasionally, I mean, it does. It's just not as often as the glands do. When the glands do, then we have what's called an adenocarcinoma. How smart aren't we smart? We come up with these words. God, we know so much. Can you help me? No, not really. Can't help you, but we can tell you what's going on. Anyway, so she had this really, it's an odd one. You know what they told her? They told her, you are going to be dead in 3 months or 6 months if you don't get this taken out. Now, this woman's from Australia. She said, she left. She walked out. And she got in touch with me 7 years later, and she said, guess what, guys, I'm still around, annoying the hell out of y'all, but I'm still here. And nothing happened to her. Oh yeah, no, they've been monitoring it, and my God, it hasn't spread, it hasn't grown, it hasn't done anything. But what has she been doing? She's been very, very strict in her lifestyle. Extremely, extremely, seriously strict. It's been 7 years. It was a pleasure to talk to her. I'm just telling you. So that right there tells you that whenever they say, when they give what's called a prognosis, what is a prognosis? It's when somebody has the audacity to tell you the future. She had an endocrine tumor, a neuroendocrine tumor that grows in the gut. You've heard of those. Anyway, it's now the SUV, standard uptake value. They inject fluorodeoxyglucose into any cancer that eats chronically fermenting cells that uses glucose primarily as a fuel. They inject that into it, and then they look at at the rate at which it picks it up. If it's picking it up at the normal physiological rate of picking up glucose, then it's considered normal, which is anywhere from around 0.5 up to maybe 1.8, or I don't know, something like that. It depends on the tissue. But if you start getting up to 3, okay, now we probably have inflammation, or we got an infection, or you get up to 6, 7, wow. Pretty soon you're at the point where you say, wow, it's got to be chronically fermenting cells. Well, she's at that point. She was at 8 point something 7 years ago, and now she's at 10 point something. But in other words, it's actively eating, but hasn't grown, hasn't spread, hasn't done anything else. And she is eating. Guess what she's eating? You'll never believe it, or I guess you will. I hope you do. She's eating this stuff called human food. And sorry, whoever you are out there, and I know who you are, I'm not going to mention your names because I don't want to get into fights with people. But all of you that are telling me and the rest of the world that kale is dangerous, that spinach is dangerous, I will debate you publicly, and I will bring the research. And I'm also going to show you my clinic that's in its 19th year, and we give people so much kale and so much spinach, their poop is green, their eyes are green, it's coming out of them, okay? They drink it all the time, okay? They're getting better. And they're not getting oxalate stones, dude. And I know the guy that said that recently, that it's no longer a superfood, is not even watching this because he's probably just a little bit too cool to do that. He's having his people do it. Maybe his people are watching. I don't know. Whatever. But it's not. Kale never has, never will be, not only not a danger, it gives you the nutrients that are not possibly found in eating an animal unless you devour the entire animal and you eat the guts and you eat the undigested plants. You got to get the plants somehow. And you're gonna have to drink the blood, the fresh blood, because it's got all this stuff floating around in it that has been absorbed from the animal eating the plants. And yes, you're going to eat an animal that ate plants. You're going to eat a grass-fed animal. So anyway, listen, this is 2022. The what do you call it? The freaks, the elite have finally certainly taken over. They're taking over. And we're still talking about whether or not humans should be eating corpses versus plants. Is this really you guys? Somebody doesn't know the answer yet. You don't know the answer. You don't know the answer. Well, I got a test for you. If you want to find out without reading anybody's bias, including mine, take your clothes off. Well, don't do it now. Drive out. Get as far as you can to the jungle and then take your clothes off. Walk in the jungle and live there. And you tell me what you're going to eat, okay? And I want you to be, and especially anybody that's like strong, somebody that goes to the gym, that's got a 6-pack and all that stuff, go out in the jungle and tell me what you're going to eat. and where you're going to live. Hey, Michael, I just real quickly read something. Your pharmacy tells you that 12 milligrams of ivermectin twice a day can harm the liver. Tell them, I don't know how you tell them, but tell them to go have tell them to go make babies with themselves. What a ridiculous ivermectin. Have you guys ever heard of river blindness? All right, well, anyway, I think there are approximately 250 million people living today on planet Earth with river blindness, and they are taking, that's how many people have been prescribed ivermectin, and they've not only been taking it recently, some of them have been taking it 10, 15 years because they've got to keep this thing at bay. 12 milligrams 3 times a day is not too much. Depends on what you're looking at. How about ask your pharmacy? Ask your pharmacy, Michael? Ask them. Say, hey, how's the Cytoxan? How much is that? Say, how's the adriamycin, doxorubicin? How's the what do you call it? Whatever. I can't even remember the names of the chemos because I want to block the names because I hate them. That I know, whatever, docetaxel, how's gemcitabine? Is that good for my liver, Mr. Pharmacist? Listen, you guys, I'm sorry for getting so upset. I'm trying not to say the wrong things and I don't want to offend people and I don't want to get kicked off, but it's going to be hard. It's not true. You need it 2 to 3 times a day. You need to take other stuff with it. And yes, you can take milk thistle. Yes, you can take alpha lipoic acid and NAC, all of these things, and vitamin B complex to support the liver function, okay, while you're doing it, because you've got to get rid of these parasites, all right? These parasites are a big deal. These parasites are a big deal, man. And women, and listen, I got some news. It's kind of hard. It's going to be hard. I know I'm going to hurt. So I know I got it. I know I'm going to watch all the numbers drop off. People are going to run away. But listen, let me just tell you something. In India, there is a system called Advaita. And basically, it's talking about God, but not in the way that we're thinking about it. There's no beards involved, and there's no maleness to it. We're just talking about God. Anyway, and the word, and it kind of means something. It's called, they use the word non-dual, because if they use the word one, you see the word one implies 2, 3, 4, 5. In other words, one begets all the other numbers. So you can't even be one, because then that means 2 is a possibility and 3 is a possibility. So if you just say non-dual, so non-dual. So in other words, and the reason I brought this up is I just want you to know, yes, the universe fundamentally, at its very, very simplest core, where we call God, is indeed non-binary. Okay? Non-binary. Just one. Just not more than one. That's it. Now, other than that, coming out of that non-binariness, that eternal nowness, what do we get? Now we're left with things that go on and off. We have ups and downs. We have fronts and backs. We have ons and off. Computers, right? All this stuff that you're looking at, right? It's on, off, on, off, on, off, on. It's all binary. That's how this stuff works. That's how the universe works. Men, woman, day, night, sleep, awake, everything has its yin, yang. That's it. That's how the phenomenal universe works. So if you are a phenomenon, then you are binary to some sort of degree. Sorry. However, there is an aspect to us that's not binary. That is eternal. And I'm sorry if I got off today. Okay, so let's go back. If you take Planning to commit suicide, you'll die, but the cancer still. Dr. Seyfried says that if you take cyanide to commit suicide, you will die, but the cancer cells survive. So what's the use of taking so much Laetrile? All right, well, listen, Dr. Seyfried is a brilliant man. Dr. Simon Yu is a brilliant man. There are a lot of brilliant doctors. Dr. Tsuneo Kobayashi. They don't know it all. And all I'm saying is that some of the stuff that they don't know, I do know. So why would you take Laetrile? The reason you would take Laetrile, the reason you would take vitamin B17, amygdalin, the reason the Hunzas took it and they lived like what? When they first found them back in the 30s, what was it, 34? They were living average 160. Come on. The women are having babies at 65. The men are able to get impregnated women at 110. Come on, these guys are running up and down the hills and stuff like this. Okay, they eat it all the time. Because why? Because cancer cells have a different ratio of enzymes. They're different, what we call chronically fermenting cells. In order to become a successfully chronically fermenting cell, this has to go up, this has to go down, this has to change. All these changes that are made result in two things. You got two enzymes. You got glucosidase and you've got rhodinase. The rhodinase neutralizes, the glucosidase grabs sugar. Okay, so cancer's got this much that grabs the sugar, this much to neutralize it. Grabs the sugar, releases the cyanide, and the cyanide, kills the cancer, but it kills other stuff too. But it kills the cancer cell, right? Now the rhodinase neutralizes whatever it can. Whereas healthy cells have the opposite. They have this much glucosidase and this much rhodinase. So what happens? Any bout that they do, any glucose that they grab off of the amygdalin molecule and they release the cyanide, it's immediately added a thiol group and it becomes thiocyanate and it's no longer toxic. So anyway, that's how that works. I'm not sure what Dr. He was saying, and I love him. He's a great guy and all that sort of stuff. Seyfried also says that glucose and glutamine are the metabolic reasons for RECNAC. How do we pulse glutamine as part of our diets? Okay. I mean, this is a good question. We're going to get into it, but I've got to answer your guys' questions. But let me just answer this real quickly because this keeps coming up and people aren't listening. It's not that they don't listen. I think what happens is I have new people joining and I have to somehow get these answers put there. But here's the thing. The body needs glucose. Every cell in our body needs glucose. And if you're on a 41-day water fast, which I've done with people, and I check your blood sugar, it will be normal because you're still making glucose out of muscle and out of tumor and out of plaque and everything. First, all the non-viable tissue, all the non-essential tissue gets converted into glucose, and then it starts to use up your organs and your muscles. But you will make glucose because you need glucose, not only for fuel, but you need the carbon backbone to make fatty acids, to make cholesterol, which cells need, by the way, to make amino acids, everything. Okay, and then you need glutamine. It's the same thing with glutamine. Glutamine is what they call a non-essential amino acid. Therefore, our bodies need to make it. I mean, our bodies make it. We don't need to ingest it. There are 9 essential amino acids that if we don't eat, we're going to be malnourished and die. Okay, glutamine is not one of them. Glutamine is one of the ones that we can make from other ones. Okay, and it goes in and it goes into the Krebs cycle, right? And it's part of it. What happens is what's extracted is the nitrogen, and that's what forms the backbone and all the stuff for all the other amino acids we make. And then we go into the pentose phosphate pathway where we're making ribose and there's other things. There's like several things we make in the phosphate pentose phosphate pathway. However, one of the big ones is the DNA stuff, RNA, nucleic acids. So and by the way, glutamine is also the primary fuel source for lymphocytes. So you can't get rid of them. The thing is to find a balance, and I understand it's very, very difficult. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a way to reestablish balance in our bodies. Okay, I know you don't want to hear this. I'm sorry. You got once we reestablish balance, the divinity that made this will be working. This is the same intelligence that's operating your 36 septillion chemical reactions every second. That's 21 zeros every second. That's the same intelligence that a spider uses, a baby spider. What a weird thing. It went off. It got us back on. That a baby spider uses to make a web. Okay, this intelligence. Okay, so anyway, that's what I'm talking about. So parasite cleanses. Let me just tell you, folks, parasite cleanses. The problem is, as I've mentioned before, these parasites burrow themselves into. The reason they're called parasites is because they successfully avoid being detected and they successfully avoid being killed. So they are successful parasites. So you're just not going to find them. And it's not just a matter of eating a few herbs. They will burrow themselves deep into the wall of your bladder, the wall of your uterus, the wall of your ovaries, the wall of your liver, the wall of your colon, the wall of your spleen, the wall of your lungs, the wall of your brain, of your skin. They get in there and they set up camp and they lay eggs and have larvae and all that. You're not going to find them. So you've got to take a lot of stuff that's going to get in there, several drugs at one time, and penetrate that. The wonderful, beautiful, fantastic side benefit of all these anti-parasitic drugs is that they also turn off all the cancer pathways and they kill cancer stem cells. There is no drug. Somebody find me a drug that a pharmaceutical company makes that kills cancer stem cells. They don't. It doesn't exist. What does? Ivermectin, fenbendazole, curcumin, vitamin C, and the other benzimidazoles like mebendazole, stuff like that. So I mean, and others. Anyway, so let's get on with these questions. Where am I? Sorry, it took me so long. I take so long to get some of these questions. My deepest apologies, you guys. So let's look at the question here. One of the questions is, this comes from Instagram. Okay, so I'm going to try to get to every group today. What is the best cancer test to test for cancer reoccurrence? Now that's a good question. And that question applies not only to, oh, come on. Oh my God. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So the best test is to test for reoccurrence. It's not only for reoccurrence, you guys. Listen, this should be applying to all of you. I'm going to try to sum up at the end all what I think should be in the basic program for everybody. Okay, I'm going to sum that up. And remind me, please. But it's a good question because how do you know how do you know if there's been a recurrence? I mean, they use the word recurrence very lightly. I don't know how. First of all, it never went away. Okay, all that ever happens. RGCC, Kara, please, they have plenty of money. They made how much money over the last 2.5 decades? And it amounts to nothing. I'll tell you about RGCC. Sorry, RGCC. And I'm not saying that you're useless or anything like that. I'm just saying let me just put it this way so you don't sue me or something. But I'm just saying I have used it over the years. I stopped in 2004. I just found it to be not working. And the reason I found it to not be working, and by the way, you can look up a guy, a brilliant conventional oncologist by the name of Robert Nagorny. He's in Long Beach, and he's got a place called forget the name of his place, but anyway, Robert Nagorny. Anyway, he looks like is it Sam Pritchard, the guy that played Star Trek? I mean, he looks so much like him. It's so weird when I can't talk to him. I have to cover my eyes because. Anyway, what's the name of that place? Anyway, so what he does is he says you've got to take live tumor cell. So he'll do. He does what's called chemosensitivity and chemo resistance. I mean, he'll take a biopsy of a tumor, or he'll have a surgeon, even in another state, biopsy the tumor, put it in a specific medium, send it over, and he's got to get it within 24 hours so it's still alive. And then he gets it growing again. And then he'll test against the real tumor instead of what they call liquid biopsies, or which are circulating tumor cells. Now, circulating tumor cells, if you consider the fact that if you have a tumor, 1% of the cells in a tumor are cancer stem cells and are therefore capable of successfully metastasizing and producing a new tumor, meaning that 99% of the cells are not capable of doing that. So when you're getting a blood test and you've got circulating tumor cells, whatever sample you get, you have a 99% chance of getting a sample that doesn't have the one that would successfully metastasize. So therefore, the test you're doing has a good chance, better than 50-50, a lot better than 50-50, of being irrelevant. And indeed, that's what I kind of found. I just found that I used RGCC, and then there was another German company that did it for a while, and now we have in the U.S. we have Caris, we have all these places, and what they're doing is but a lot of them are looking at the DNA, the genetics of a circulating tumor cell, as if the genetics did anything. They do nothing. The genetics are a downstream epiphenomenon, as Thomas Seyfried says. The genetics tell you. What do you think of research of Beljanski? Amazing. Beljanski's amazing. In fact, I think I'll be at his. I'll be giving a lecture at his conference in Orlando. Is it? No, where is it? It's in Florida somewhere. But anyway, in October. Beljanski. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that the RGCC, when you do that, and you're going to look at these, you may not know. And so to look at the genetics of a cell is to look at how the cell has adapted to its current environment. That's what the genetic expression of a cell is. It gives you a snapshot picture of how that cell has successfully adapted to its current situation. Remember, adaptation is life, the ability to adapt, right? Somebody pushes you, your left leg goes out, holds you so you don't fall over off the cliff. That's a biomechanical, physiological, homeostatic corrective response, okay? You're eating garbage, your arteries get plugged up, your blood pressure starts to go high because your body needs to keep the blood flow. Again, that's a physiological adaptation, all right? It's an adaptation. Life is adaptation. So it doesn't mean it's going to be a long term. I mean, having your blood pressure that high, the long term is not going to not be compatible with long life, and neither will having chronically fermenting cells. So that's why we have to figure out how to restore balance and let the wisdom and divinity and incomprehensible intelligence of God go back to work and keep it all happening. Right? Yeah. All right. So we can never be so audacious. We can never be so vain, so arrogant as to think we've got the answer. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Can't you see it? It's right there. It's that. If we just block that one particular molecule, done. Yeah. Should I get surgery? I'll tell you about that in a minute. Let me just answer this question. Okay. So the question is, how do I know if check for recurrence? Well, again, as I said, the chronically fermenting cells, they grow into a tumor. 99% of them cannot be, or what they call mature cells. So if you use chemo, radiation, or even surgery, you're going to get rid of them. What you won't get rid of are the cancer stem cells. and the cancer stem cells are the ones that will grow and spread around. And so you want to find out, is it's a year, it's been a year and a half, it's been a year, it's been 6 months, do I have a recurrence? Well, there are several tests that have been good over the years. And now the one I used to use, the group I used to use, what I used to use is I can't believe my dear mentor and maybe the most brilliant human being I've ever met in my life. Dr. Tsuneo Kobayashi has passed away, I think, in January. Anyway, he had a test called the TMCA test, which I'll tell you about in a second. But that was a test. If you want to know where you are, you get that test. Nobody has done it, has replicated or anything. I'm going to have to take my notes and see if I can. And I've got some stuff he wrote. I want to figure out if I can. I don't know who KK is. Anyway, thoughts on natto kinase? Yes, and eat natto. Yeah. Anyway, so Dr. Kobayashi viewed cancer much of the same way as Dr. James Beard. If you may or may not have heard of Dr. James Beard back about 100, maybe over 100 years ago. He was a physiologist, and he talked about the perfect storm that has to come together for an embryo to implant in the uterus, right? So the sperm and egg usually meet in the fallopian tube, right? The egg got extruded from the ovary, the sperm climbed up, and they meet there, and they form a new cell. This new cell then divides into, and as it divides, it goes down into the uterus and implants. And in order for that to happen, several things have to happen. And so you've got to have a good nest. You have to have an appropriate blood supply, and you need to have the embryo. You can't have any of them lacking. Well, that's the same thing with what we call chronically fermenting cell. And that's what Kobayashi discovered years ago. That's James Beard even discovered. It was called the, what do you call it? The embryological theory of cancer. But anyway, Dr. Kobayashi knew this, and he realized this, and he was a biochemist, and then he became, so he was a PhD who became an MD, who then became an oncologist. Anyway, he figured out that he looked at the different kinds of cytokines produced by malignant cells, chemicals produced by the cells that make up the nest, fibroblasts and things like that, and then the cells that make up the blood vessels. So those three different. He looked at what they produced and in what order, and how a chronically fermenting cell actually takes root and comes to live, and he classified it into 5 stages. Looking at all these different things, it's extremely complicated, and it's an algorithm that he developed, and I almost have it, but no one's been able to reproduce it. And believe me, the Mayo Clinic the original Mayo Clinic saw his work and was blown away. This guy they sent him 100 tubes of blood, and he was 88% accurate. He didn't know if they were male, female, or if they were even human. He didn't know anything. He just looked at the blood, did his test. Incredible. Anyway, but there are other ones. Now there's a laboratory in the United States called the American Metabolic Laboratory, and it's pretty good. They look at a few things. They look at HCG, they look at CEA, they look at TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone, DHEAS, and GGTP, and the one that they have that's pretty unique, I think, to them is a PHI, and it's PHI is also called glucose 6-phosphate isomerase, or glucose hexoisomerase, which is PHI. Anyway, it's a pivotal enzyme that changes glucose to fructose. Remember, we always talk about Is fructose good? Okay. Chronically fermenting cells will eat either one. Sorry, I didn't make it up. It's just the way it is. Anyway, it catalyzes the reversible isomerization, which is a kind of a chemical thing that happens between fructose and glucose. All right. But the important thing about that is kind of like the pivotal point in, like, remember we talked a moment ago about the pentose phosphate pathway, right? Which makes nucleic acids and makes other things. Okay. That pathway and gluconeogenesis, which means a piece of amino acid protein came from another cell, went to the liver and gets turned into glucose, right? So there are like three different ones, and also the glycosylation of proteins, of lipids, and other molecules. So it's it's a pivotal kind of molecule. Anyway, so it's really involved in the glycolytic pathway. The glycolysis pathway is the pathway of that chronically fermenting cells prefer to use, right? Rather than oxidative phosphorylation. They can use that, and they do use that. They use it, but they don't. But even you give them oxygen, they're going to still prefer to go the other way around. Okay, which is called the Warburg effect. Anyway, the point is this: PHI is a pivotal enzyme in that activity. So if it's up at a certain, and so they've done tests and they've looked at it, and some remarkable tests. I found one that they said that is 69% specificity and a 74% specificity. Okay, with gastrointestinal fermenting cells, cancers. Okay, but only 40% with breast fermenting cells. However, if you combine the PHI with the CEA, and then they wound up doing a cancer profile at the American Metabolic Laboratory, and it's PHI, CEA, GGTP, TSH, DHA, and the HCG. The HCG, human chorionic gonadotrophin, which is produced by placental cells, which tells us that you're pregnant. That's what a pregnancy test is. But we also see that go up in testicular cancer. We see that go up. So there's certain kinds of things. We see it go up in some female tumors too, like teratomas and stuff. So, however, it normally doesn't go that high. But when in combination with these other ones, you can come up with a really I think, other than Kobayashi, I think that this American Metabolic Laboratory may have like the closest thing to give you at least a sense that it's in the right direction. Okay, so you might say, okay, and get your doctor to send it, or call them, and I think they're in Florida, and ask them, say, hey, can I got a doctor on staff that I can work with who would just I can get my blood drawn and send it to you guys or something. But again, don't say, oh my God, this my PHI was 75. I definitely have cancer. No. It's not that. It's not like Kobayashi, but it's kind of a way of kind of monitoring you. So when you think you're all done, now that Kobayashi is no longer with us, when you think you're all done, do that. See where you're at. See where your PHI is at. See where all those ones are at. Look at their thing. I would just do the PHI, or you could combine them together. What else? Was there any other one? But I mean, you got to be careful because even like the what do you call it? The glucose 6-phosphate. Now here's a bizarre thing. I just to remind us all how complex life is and how complex these chronically fermenting cells are. We've all heard of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency, G6PD deficiency, right? So if you're going to get vitamin C from any doctor in the world, they're going to always do a G6PD test. And if you're deficient, they're going to say, I'm sorry, I can't give you high doses of vitamin C because your red blood cells won't be able to reduce them, antioxidize them, and they'll burst. And you'll wind up getting bloody urine and be very sick. That's true to a degree, but let me just tell you something. I had a woman. I didn't have that. Well, what a terrible word to these our English language, or maybe it's my use. I'm just really poor. I wish I should have been born in England. You guys in England speak much better than we do in America. There was a woman who came to our center who had a very profound G6PD deficiency. And therefore, we should never give her, we should have never given her any vitamin C, but we did, because I don't believe anything. That's not true. That's not true. I believe a lot of things, but I didn't believe that. Okay, I didn't believe that. So I thought, well, let's give her a little bit. Let's give her 15 grams. It was fine. Give her 15 grams. Give her 15 grams. Give it to her 3 times a week, 4 times a week. I checked haptoglobin. I checked different things in her blood to make sure she wasn't hemolyzing, right? Went up to 20 grams. Anyway, eventually, several months later, we measured her G6PD again, and it went to normal. How did that happen? Because guess what? These things are not mutations. These things are not that way. They can be upregulated or downregulated. You can force something to do to modify the way it is by requiring it to be used, right? So that's what we did. And I talked to Dr. Frank Schallenberger, who has found the same phenomenon with using ozone, because you're not supposed to give ozone to someone with G6PD deficiency. But here's the irony, you guys. The irony is this: G6PD deficiency is protective against cancer, because if you've got that G6PD deficiency and you block that whole pathway, then that pathway can't occur, and it's going to slow down the cancer in the first place. How do you figure this out? You don't. You say, okay, hey, God, please, I'm going to go to bed early. I'm going to eat human food. I'm going to move around all day. I'm going to forgive everyone I meet. Not everyone. Okay. There are guys up in the World Economic Forum that not forgivable. Not even Muhammad or Jesus or Moses or anybody would forgive them, I think. Klaus Schwab. So his name Klaus the Slav. Yeah. Klaus the Slav. And who else? Man Boobs Gates. You know Man Boobs Gates. And I don't know, Obama and his husband, they're all the same thing. So anyway, so what test would I use to see if they had a recurrence? First of all, I would live a life, because the real way to live a life, you want to know what medical insurance is. You want to know what health insurance is. It's living a life that results in health. Yeah. I mean, I see. Listen, you guys, we can't get into the Putin and Biden thing because, and I agree with you, man. Here's one thing that I think we can all agree on regarding politics. And that is, if it's in the news, it's not true. That probably the opposite is the truth, and it's probably a distraction. You got to understand. You got to know that if it's in the news, it's not true. Anyway, so that's what we do. So what are you going to do? You want to know if it's coming back. I would say do a PHI, send it off to American Biologic Labs, do a PHI, and you can get the CEA, the PHI, and there's one other one called the TPA. Those three together seem to be really good at just telling you that something's going on in that direction. But I also look at the LDH, which is an enzyme that you can commonly get. That's very important. Is that going up? If that's going up, and another one because we can't forget Kobayashi. Well, Kobayashi, I mean, I took a few notes here. Where did I put them? Let me see if I found my notes from Kobayashi. Because, he's just, oh, shoot. Where did I put it? Let me see. I know it's here. Hang on, you guys. Kobayashi, come back. Come back. Kobayashi. Is that him? No. Anyway, let me tell you really quickly what this guy did. Now, you got to understand, Kobayashi was doing this 40, 50 years ago. All right? 40, 50 years ago. He was looking for phosphodiesterase inhibitors. What is that? Well, that's what Viagra is. That's what Cialis is. They're specific types of phosphodiesterase inhibitors. Anyway, they turn out to be really important enzymes that can be blocked and should be blocked in certain situations. But he found it not in relation to erectile function, but he found it in relationship to an intracellular messenger called cyclic AMP. Okay, I mentioned Simon Yu. Is your approach to cancer the same as his? Okay, Dr. Simon Yu, brilliant. I went and studied with him. I studied how to do the acupuncture meridian test. Absolutely, there's not a better, but he's a master. No, even though I studied and learned, it's going to take me years to get anywhere near the level he is for figuring out what's going on. In terms of everything he does and says, no, I don't agree at all. With diet, I don't agree. And I tell him that I'm never going to tell you, don't go to him and say, tell him, let him watch. I mean, he knows. I don't agree with what he thinks about diet. I don't a lot of things, but he does many, many things that I do. Many, many things. He's he's a really, really smart guy, very smart. And he's a master at the AMA. So if he tests you and he says that you got to do this, this, and this, do it, because he's right. He's right. But he doesn't know it all. That's the problem. I really wish he would collaborate with me more. Interesting. Anyway, okay, so I can't get sidetracked. You guys are too interesting, man. We've got to do this more often. I think we should do it daily or something because it's just too interesting. And there's so much to talk about. I have to rest my legs. There's so much to talk about. And what time is it? Okay, we still got time. If you guys are going to hang around, I'm going to hang around. All right, so don't go anywhere. I know it's late for some of you, but whatever. This only comes around once a week. We don't have that much time. Okay. Yeah, have I researched RSOL? Yes, I've researched almost everything that there is to research. Anyway, so TMCA test. I just want to tell you. Anyway, his test was stage 5 is 1 gram or more of cancer. Stage 1 is 0 cancer. No one has stage 1. Stage 2 is nanograms, micrograms, milligrams. But none of these are clinical cancer. They're not yet a tumor. They're still precancer. And none of these can be discovered by any other method. There's no other method. There's no other imaging. There's no scanning. There's nothing that will tell you you're in these stages. The only thing that we can detect in the whole Western world is this. Dr. Simon Yu can find in this stuff. He doesn't know where or anything like that, but he can tell you what are the sources that may be contributing to this. You understand that? He's telling you what are the sources that can be contributing to this. Okay. Good. So now, it's called TMCA, tumor marker combination assay. Now, one of the things I wanted to say was okay, so it's very interesting. So if he finds out that you're in a stage 4, which means you're not yet 5. It means you don't yet have clinical chronically fermenting cells. You're in a stage 4. Change in lifestyle, change in sleeping habits, which is lifestyle, change in diet, which is lifestyle, supplementation with vitamin A, C, and E, and smoking cessation. That was his thing. 40 years ago. Okay, what did he find out about vitamin A? In case you ever want to know. That it is always, never sometimes, always low in the tissues of people who have chronically fermenting cells. Always low. I should go live every day. You guys let me know if we could make that a possibility. I mean, who's going to be? I mean, most of you have to work and other things, you know. But it's a great way to wake up, right? For me, I mean, it's a great way to, you guys wake me up. You wake me up. And then if he tries that for 3 to 6 months, and if that doesn't work, he adds this herbal remedy that he made that he calls Herbal Advance, or called Sun Advance, and it was these little pills, and you got to take like 10 of them 4 or 5 times a day. I remember, and even like when I first met him back around 98, 99, I think when I first met him, even then it was like, what, $500 for a bottle? It was like crazy. You know, still the price never went up, but it never went down either. But his studies with whatever's in those herbs is just mind-boggling. And I'm telling you, his studies are PhD work. They're published. It's in Japanese, not English. So I would love to get that. And I can see if I can still get that from anybody, if anybody's interested. But it's fantastic. But you got to be doing that, plus detoxification. And here's what he was talking about 40 years ago: prebiotics, probiotics, fermented food, immunomodulation, fasting under supervision. Okay, this is the stuff that, you know, so I've been, so when I met him in 98, I'm saying, what? Here's a guy that has the scientific data supporting all the things that I've known, that I read about since I was a kid, from Herbert M. Shelton and all that. And here's a guy that knows it like a PhD. I mean, this guy was such a PhD, such an MD. He had a white coat on. His white coat was like down. You couldn't even see his ankles. That's how long his white coat was. He might have even worn it to bed. I'm not sure. But this dude, extremely serious. I did see him smile a few times, though. Anyway, so systemic immunothermo chemotherapy, he calls it defective, and he says it's due to the defective immunosurveillance. That's what happens. That's how RECNAC comes about. Okay, and number one, he said, is vitamin A deficiency, vitamin C, and vitamin D. It's almost. I'm sure it's possible to take too much vitamin A, but it's extremely difficult. I've been taking the person. Not recommending anybody to do anything except get balanced, love God, love each other, and be happy. But I've been taking 40 to 50,000 units a day for a few years, and my level doesn't get above the upper limits of normal. Now, vitamin D is different. You can take vitamin D and easily get up to around 100 and keep it around 100. 120 is fine. I one time checked myself and oh my God, it was 250. I thought, oh, maybe I should slow down a little bit. But I didn't die. Right? I didn't. If you realize with vitamin D, what up? But the other thing I wanted to find you, really. So here's what he found out like years ago. And no one will ever, and this is what I'm going to be doing here in Arizona. Okay. He said he found out that defective immunosurveillance is because the lowering of cyclic AMP. Now, that means nothing to most people. And biochemists are only now starting to think about it. He has a way of getting that up. And so do we now. So, he was down to a detail that nobody talks about. By the way, I introduced him to Thomas Seyfried. I did it by mail because one was in Japan, one was in Boston. Talk about a bromance. These guys, like, they wound up lecturing together. I think they went to Florida and made a lecture together. That would have been difficult, because I'll tell you something. Listening to the Kobayashi is regardless of whether you speak Japanese or not, is challenging. The guy is like, anyway, I wanted to find this other thing. Let me see if I can find this other thing for you. Where is it? Here it is. Maybe this is it. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So some of the tests, what do you do for high platelets? Depends on how high your platelets are. Okay, if your platelets are up around 900,000, then they start to become a problem. Below that, they're just, don't worry about them. They may be sticky and all that. Drink a lot of water, take a lot of natto kinase, take 200, 300 milligrams, empty stomach 2-3 times a day. Just do that. Keep your bowels running. Go to sleep early, exercise, drink water, and drink juice, fresh juice, like that. Okay. You get up near 1,000, you've got to take something like hydroxyurea. Otherwise, you're going to get a stroke. So I don't know how high you're talking about with that. But platelets go, remember, they're also what they call an acute phase reaction. They go up and down. When you're inflamed, they're going to go up. You don't have to worry about it. Those guys that can do nothing. How do I know they can do nothing? Because I'm so busy. If they knew what they were doing, I wouldn't be busy at all. You have essential thrombocythemia. Okay, so we need to talk. What's your name? Right? Make an appointment with me, but because essential means they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, they don't know how. They don't know why. Thrombocythemia just means high platelets in the blood. So you have high platelets in your blood and they don't know why. So a lot of you will be here. Not every day. Yeah, okay, I get it. Not every day. I know, but I'm just saying, at least twice a week or something, right? At least twice a week. Overextend. I'm already overextended. You've been going through chemo. You know what? You need Bree. Is that your name, Bree? You got to get in touch with me. We got to talk, because I don't know what they have you on. You probably have what they call myelodysplastic syndrome, right? MDS, and that part of it is considered anyway, I can't read all this stuff. I got to stay here. I'm talking about Kobayashi yet. Look, anybody, you guys don't have to listen to me. I've said this before. Someone just said, what type of doctor are you? Is he really an oncologist? Okay, again, for the at least 30th, 40th, 50th time. There's a field of medicine called internal medicine. In internal medicine, as part of it, what constitutes internal medicine is cardiology, nephrology, kidneys, gastroenterology, you know that, gastrointestinal system, neurology, everything except for pediatrics is internal medicine. Now, there are subspecialties. In other words, some people in that field say, well, I'm just going to work on the gastrointestinal system. They become gastroenterologists. Some people say, I'm just going to work on the oncology, cancer. I'm going to become a hematologist oncologist. Okay, so I'm an internist, internal medicine. Yeah. Okay, that's what I did. Training, best training ever. Okay. I was invited to do a hematology oncology fellowship, and I started. And I spent 3-4 months, and I stopped because I couldn't watch people die. I couldn't do it anymore. Just like when I was OBGYN. Before I went to internal medicine, I was doing obstetrics and gynecology. And I had to do abortions. I couldn't. I did this. I was called into the room one time. I was on call that night, and I went in, and they had this woman put up in a nice suite, this really, and she said to me, "Oh, doctor, I think something's in the toilet." And I went in there, and there was a baby. They had given her this thing. They'd put this thing in her to make it come out. And my job was to take it out and make sure that all the parts were there. That was it. Done. I can't do that anymore. I couldn't be involved in that. So yeah, there are certain things I didn't do. So I didn't go all the way with OBGYN. I was lucky enough to switch at that point to internal medicine. I switched to internal medicine, and then I couldn't do the other thing. So there's certain things I couldn't do. I got as far as I could go. I did, internal medicine is, if you know internal medicine, you know everything, right? And I've studied hard, so I know a lot of things. But if some of you on there are still don't get it, that's okay. But please go. I mean, I'm sure you'll find who you're looking for, okay? And then what did I have to do? Then I worked 10 years in intensive care units, critical care units, cardiac care units, surgical intensive care units, emergency rooms. I did all those things for 10 years. And I finally realized that we're not helping people. So I had to quit and go to Mexico, go to Europe, go all around the world and study with different people who looked at things differently and train on my own and read and do all that. And then I finally wound up back in New York in the late 90s and started doing what I'm doing now. So those are my credentials for those of you that are asking. Why does it bother me? I don't know. It bothers me because that shouldn't be the issue. What is the issue is not anything. Should I put all my degrees behind that? Would you all feel better? Would it make you feel better if you saw all my degrees? What matters and what you should be listening for is the content. What am I saying? Does it make sense? Is it true? By the way, is anything I say verifiable? No. 100% of what I say is verifiable. And when I do a podcast, I'll be able, not a podcast, a Zoom thing, I'll be able to show you with a PowerPoint, and I'll be able to share the screen and show you the research. Everything I say is researched. Anyway, going back to what Dr. Kobayashi was looking at. He was looking at CEA. We all know that, right? It's a tumor marker, they call it. He was looking at the TPA, as I mentioned. He was looking at the ferritin to iron ratio. He was looking at the TPA times the CEA. And then the TPA times the CEA divided by the ferritin iron ratio. And then the TPA times the CEA, if it's greater than 380 or greater than 360, then he divided it. Anyway, he did all this stuff. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to get it together. He also looked at alkaline phosphatase 1, alkaline phosphatase 2. He looked at ribonuclease. Things that people are still not looking at. He looked at sialic acid and the ratio of sialic acid and all that. So, just saying, the guy was brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. No one is doing his work now. God, what a tragedy. God. So. Let me go back to your questions, people. I get impassioned. And why am I impassioned? I'm impassioned because every day I read what you are all going through. And it beyond breaks my heart. It makes me feel honored that I get a chance to meet you guys. Jeez. I feel like I'm in the middle of like the Vietnam War, the middle of the Gulf War. So it's like, you guys are all like these incredible heroes. And I got to figure out ways to help. So, anyway, What was the next question here? What? Where do I find last Sunday's live stream? I think, listen, on Instagram, they save them all. So they're saved on Instagram. It should be saved on Instagram. I don't know if Facebook does anymore. I don't know about YouTube, but I'm sure. Okay. Explain starving cancer again, please. All right. Well, okay. You really can't. You can't, because I said you can't deprive it of glucose and glutamine. Although you should not eat. Don't eat. In other words, you eat healthy. When you eat healthy, that means you're not eating processed anything. You're not eating things that comes in packages. You're not eating anything that has a label, because you don't need a label for real food. Okay, you got a tomato, you know what it is. All right. We don't anymore, thanks to Man Boob Gates and Monsanto. We don't really know. But so if you got an organic garden or you grow it yourself, you get a tomato, you know what it is. You don't need a label. Anyway, so that's food. So anyway, but if you're eating all these healthy foods, you're not eating processed foods like breads, pastas, cakes, rice, potato, cooked potatoes. I mean, yeah. Okay. After everything's clear, a year and a half from now, nothing detectable, 80-20, 80% uncooked real food, 20% have some fun, steamed or boiled like sweet potatoes and things like that. Yeah. Quinoa, brown rice, there's a lot of things you can do in that 80-20 part, right? But we got to get there first. And by the way, don't look at it like, oh my God, I got to eat this way for the next. I get to eat this way. I get to eat fantastic food. I mean, look at it. Look at that tomato. Look what the intelligent. Look at that. That apple. Look at that broccoli. I mean, yeah, you get to eat it. No, you get to eat it. You get to enjoy it. And remember, the best sauce is hunger. Yes, Genesis 1:29. You got it. If anyone's ever confused about what to eat, go to the first book that Moses wrote, called the Pentateuch, also called the Old Testament. I forget what they call it in Islam, but the first book, first chapter, verse 29. All right, now. Okay, here's a question, Maria. Sarah. Turbo cancers. What is the first thing to do for a person who has accelerated growth like that? Okay, turbo cancers is a term they're putting on these chronically fermenting conditions that have increased tremendously since the advent of what they're calling, I can't say it, these injections, these death shot, these shots. We've seen, I think the military data shows 7,500% increase in the incidence. That means newly diagnosed RECNAC. Anyway, so first thing to do is you got to find somebody with an EBO machine. EBO, okay? EBO is a way of doing ozone, but the part about it that's so important is it's got a micrometer filter. EBO is extracorporeal blood, ozone, and oxygen. Extracorporeal means anything outside of the corpus, anything outside of the blood. That's what EBO stands for. But you can also get a DFPP, double filtration plasmapheresis, which is a 20 nanometer filter. Anyway, it takes your blood out, filters it, and takes out everything bigger than 20 nanometers, which means including all the tumor immune suppressant proteins that are in blood. Gets rid of them as well. We should all do that once a week. It's really, really, really good. So find someone with a DPFF. We've ordered one. Hopefully we're going to get it soon. I don't know. And then Evo. Those are the things I would say right away. The other than that, I would get doing your colonics. I would go on a juice cleanse. All that stuff. To start taking nattokinase. Take 30 milligrams 3 times a day, empty stomach. And there's a lot. I don't know your particular situation, but believe me, that's what we got to start doing. Okay. I have bad bloating, stomach pain. I'm on omeprazole and tamoxifen. Please help me. Oh, first of all, omeprazole. Omeprazole is, I think he spelled it wrong, unless they have unless there's a new generation. But if it ends in Zol, Z-O-L-E, it's probably what they call a proton pump inhibitor. It's blocking stomach acid production, and that is the opposite of what you need. So stop that one. As far as your tamoxifen goes, but I don't know you. I don't know your situation. But what I tell everyone that I work with is that you can get the same benefit of tamoxifen using soy and flax. And look it up. Look it up. Talk to me. You get the same benefit without the problems associated with it. And you need to restore your gut biome. If you're bloated in any way, you're not getting enough stomach acid before you eat, and you don't have enough of the enzymes because your pancreas is tired. It's been eating uncooked food for however long you've been alive. Okay, we all grew up in. Oh, there we go. What? What? Why is dehydrating good? Okay. Let me find this other test here. Okay, here's a test. Now here's a question that somebody asked me. Why is dehydrating good? Okay, real quick. Let me just answer that real quickly here. Dehydrating food means you're taking it up. Remember, all food has enzymes. Enzymes are essential. They are the fundamentals of life. They work at speeds that are incomprehensible, like 2 million, 1 million per second. That's how quickly they're doing the job. They're proteins. So they have a primary, secondary, and tertiary structure. The tertiary structure is the shape, and it's dependent on the pH and the temperature. So all enzymes have an optimal pH and an optimal temperature. The optimal temperature of all of them is 98.6 Fahrenheit, 37 degrees centigrade, except for our immune cells, our white blood cells, which are most functional at 40.5, which is why we get fevers. That's the importance of fevers. That's the importance of hypothermia. That's the importance. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, dehydration. So until the temperature gets to 119, 118 Fahrenheit, or 49, 48, 47 centigrade. Until then, it may have lost its three-dimensional structure, but as soon as it cools off, it goes back together. So it's still alive. It still has enzymes. If you go above 118 Fahrenheit or you go above 47 centigrade, the enzymes are dead forever, okay? So dehydration keeps it below that. But when you eat a dehydrated broccoli, you're going to think it was cooked. It's really good. It's just, so anyway, that dehydrating. It's so that we can eat it, so that we can enjoy it and taste it. Yeah. Now, what I want, there was one other question here. It said, do I treat DCIS differently if it's ER/PR positive? Was that the question? Did I read that right? Is DCIS different kind of treatment if it is ER/PR positive? Yeah. No. ER/PR positive You can use baking soda and essential oil with colonics, but I wouldn't recommend it. You use water. Your colon needs to have a pH of around 6.7, 6.8. It needs to have a fairly low pH. It's important to keep away the sick, the pathogenic types of microorganisms. Okay, that's why we have acidophilus organisms. They produce a certain amount of acid. Same with vaginal secretions. A healthy vaginal fluid is also mostly acidic, except during, which happens to also be spermicidal, except during ovulation. During ovulation, the mucus secretions that the uterus produces, when metabolized by the vaginal bacteria, produce alkalinity, which don't kill sperm, which allows pregnancy. So anyway, I'm telling you, God was and is, I mean, life is, I mean, all I can ever say every day is, wow, thank you, wow, what a thing life is. So anyway, well, here's the thing: ER/PR positive DCIS. First of all, DCIS stands for ductal carcinoma in situ. Period. Okay, that's what it means. It's also called stage 0. Now, let me see. I remember learning. I learned how to count from like 1 to 10, and I also learned about what zeros are. In fact, that's what the Arabic people brought zeros to our mind, to our conceptually, right? Because remember the Romans. Remember Roman numerals? They had no zeros, so they were in trouble. They had all these long letters and stuff like that. All you needed was a zero. You get a zero, you change everything. So you go up to 1 to 9, then you get a 10, up to 20, 19, then you get a 20. I mean, anyway, zeros are a big deal. Anyway, but zero by itself means nothing. So now, since the advent of what they call mammograms, which is torture, should be illegal, and I'll talk to any radiologist, you show me the data. Show me. Send it to me, the data that shows me that mammograms do any good, that I can't get the better information from a breast ultrasound and a thermography. Show me. Somebody, show me. Show me. Post it. Be proud that you're going to squash breasts, cause them trauma, and then you're going to irradiate them. And you do that how often? What are you recommending now? ASCO, American Society of Clinical Oncology. What are you recommending? Every year from the age of what? 8, 9, or 12, 15? What? When do we do? 25, 25, 30, 40? Right, because we know that since the advent of that, we've had it at least, way back when, I don't know how many years ago, it was 12, 15 years ago, we had a 1,200% increase in DCIS since the advent of that. Well, that's just because they're discovering it sooner. Oh, yeah? How do you know they're discovering it and not producing it? How do you know? You don't know. You don't. You don't know. So don't say you know. Okay. So anyway. So if you have ER/PR positive on your breast, fantastic. Well, that just means they're breasts. I mean, breasts have estrogen receptor and progesterone receptors. Okay, so those are different. So here's the thing. What I wanted to tell you about. Unfortunately, since the advent of these of this insane thing called mammograms, and they're finding all this DCIS, and they're sending these women to surgery. Now, at least with lobular carcinoma in situ, at least they're saying don't do it. It's not cancer yet. They admit that, which is beautiful. I love that. Fantastic. But I don't know, ductal, they're still doing it. So they do all these surgeries. Can you get rid of gyno naturally? I'm not sure what you mean. Can you get rid of gyno? What is gyno? GYNO? Anyway, so I got to focus, you guys. Help me focus. Okay, so here's what I want to say. So they're doing surgery on these women with DCIS. They're cutting their breasts off because they have DCIS, and they wind up dying from the trauma of the surgery, the metastasis, and then the chemo and the radiation after it. These people would have gone on to live just like we find. I forget the exact data, but look it up, and you'll find that I'm pretty close. I don't remember the specific data, but when they do autopsies on 95-year-old men who died from stroke or heart attack or whatever, that I think close to 100% of them had prostate cancer. They didn't die from the prostate cancer. Okay. So it's kind of like what we call prostate. All these chronically fermenting cells come from many things, and we aren't going to get into it. Anyway, so DCIS is not necessarily. It needs, what it means, it's a call to action. It's a call to change your lifestyle, change your thinking. We've got to start thinking, okay? We got to start thinking. I mean, we have to learn to stop thinking. We have to learn to stop thinking. And don't use their words. Don't use cancer. Don't use stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. Don't use any of that stuff because it's all a lie. It doesn't mean anything except it's a sales algorithm. Don't play their game. Now, what I wanted to tell you is that what happens with cancer? What happens with cancer? I mean, with surgery. What happens? And I found this. It's an article. I wish I knew the name of the article. It's really worth reading. But I mean, if you read what's happening, surgery causes dissemination of the circulating tumor cells. The macrophages and natural killer cells become damaged, and it goes on. Anyway, it's incredible. It's incredible what it does to the angiogenesis, to everything. It's just incredible. Is it necessary sometimes? Absolutely. Absolutely. And when it's necessary, let's do it the right way. Take certain things like modified citrus pectin. What does modified citrus pectin do? It blocks the production of galactin-3. What does galactin-3 do? It allows cells that are traveling through the blood vessels that have been dislodged one way or another. It allows them to stick to the wall and get through the wall and form a new colony there. That's what it does. Okay, so that's what it does, and you can do that. And then there's a lot of other things we can do. Taking enough vitamin C, enough vitamin E, enough vitamin D, and all these things that you need to do before the surgery. There's a lot of things we can do, and sleep, but there's a lot of things we would do to prepare someone for, and then you get the surgery. Okay, because sometimes surgery is necessary. If you've got a situation where the tumor is potentially blocking a vital function, you can't mess around. If you've got so I don't only tell people what not to do. I'm telling you, if you're going to do it, let's do it in the right way with the least damage and get the best out of it. And let's survive this. I mean, I won't go. I'll do a thing on surgery. I got to do a thing on surgery. Oh, wait a minute. Where is that? Oh, hold on a second, please. All right. Anyway, it's cold in here. That's a first. How come I'm cold? Anyway, let's go back to so that modified citrus pectin. But not only if you're going to get surgery, modified citrus pectin reduces the galactin-3, which is an inflammatory marker, which I think is even better than, I know it's better than a CRP, a C-reactive protein. It's just really an important marker, and it's cardiologists use it all the time. But anyway, the modified citrus pectin, and I think the most researched brand is Pectisol, right? It's a brand, but I mean, it all, and not only inhibits galactin-3, it also it stimulates apoptosis, or it stimulates cancer cells to kill themselves. And so, what is pectin? Pectin is that white stuff in the, when you peel something and then that white stuff that's kind of bitter. Okay, so most of it is indigestible completely, right? But some of it is modified a little bit. They call it modified citrus pectin, right? And we find that in oranges, we find it in limes, we find it in grapefruits, we find it in some apple skins, we find it in some plums and stuff like that. And that's where the modified citrus. So anyway, no, it's good. It's very, very, very good. Take 2 or 3 scoops a day, empty stomach. Great studies with all kinds of with the prostate, with breast, with everything. It's good stuff. Modified citrus pectin is good stuff, right? Or when you're juicing and you make let's say you make your juice of a good juice: celery, cucumber, kale. Oh my God, kale. Oh yes. Oh my God, oxalates. Kale. Okay, kale. Spinach, lemon, if you want it, and put in a couple of oranges. Use the peel. Anyway, it also helps the immune system. It helps all sorts of stuff. So it's pretty amazing. Modified citrus pectin is pretty amazing. And DCIS. So what the point with DCIS is whether or not it's ER positive, it doesn't matter. What you need to do is don't get anything cut out. Don't do all of that. You got to get really healthy really quickly, and it's really easy. But it's not simple. No, it's simple but not easy. Okay, simple means you just got to live right. Well, yeah, but my kids, I know, but you got this thing going on. All right, so it's the pulp in the lemon. You might not like the taste of kale by itself. I don't either. So you can make it. You can use salt, like to kind of you massage it all in salt. You rinse it off really good, and then you can use lemon. You can use a little bit of mustard seed. You can use a little bit of lemon oil. You use a little bit of olive oil and some pine nuts and anyway, there's a lot of stuff to make a really delicious kale salad. Some avocados. It's fantastic. Or stick it in your smoothies or whatever. There's lots of ways to do it. But the DCIS is the surgery and everything they do to the people is just tragic, man. The unavoidable damage. No matter what. Now, I mean, oncological surgeons. I know a couple of you might be watching because I know you know me, and I know you. But anyway, the point is this: we know this that we know that the unavoidable damage to the tumor during surgery is going to produce shedding. Also, the tumor is producing chemicals that prevent distant small micrometastasis from growing blood vessels, so it can increase its own blood vessels. But once you cut and do all that, you change it. Now, all those micro metastases that have already existed around, because we know that TMC, according to Kobayashi, the TMCA5 used to be a 4 and a 3 and a 2, and so there were a bunch of little guys all over the place. We know that. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, anyway, I beat that one up. Let's see. Let's go to some other. Wow, there's so many good questions, you guys. I'm just so sorry I can't get them all, but geez, if you could suggest only one supplement for cancer, what would it be? Why would I suggest only one? I guess vitamin C. But I wouldn't only suggest one. Vitamin C, A, D, iodine. I mean, but yeah. Is there any way to visibly detect parasites for those who need proof for insurance? No. And tell your insurance company. Um, uh, just tell your insurance agent that he or she probably has parasites, and tell them not to worry about it. Not tell them not. Send them some articles to show how it produces cancer and other things like that. But say, don't worry about it. So what can you do about it? No, because you're not going to be able to find them in a lot of times. So you're going to have to say, look, I'm going to spend the money and take care of myself and the insurance company. Okay. About what? About can I give you advice about ears? Should I hold off on surgery? They want to schedule me as soon as possible. Of course they do. Of course they do. You got to get in touch with me, and I mean, or I'll do a thing today on and I should post it or something on surgery. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know your situation, so I really can't answer you. But if there's not a vital function, if it's not in your brain, I mean, I don't know your situation, but in most cases, surgery is not something that needs to happen quickly. In most cases, in some cases, it needs to happen now. Yeah. So I'm not saying that. Can you still heal gastritis while eating solid food? Well, heal is not a transitive verb, so we can't heal anything. But the question should be, will gastritis heal while eating solid food? Yes, yeah, but it will just take a little bit longer and harder. So green juice and water. Remember, very important thing to remember, although 98% of you are going to say, what? This guy's absolutely nuts. But too bad. Here's what I'm going to say. The best thing to do about anything is nothing. Think about it for a year or two. You'll figure it out. It's true. But anyway, when it comes to healing your ankle, don't walk on it. Don't jog on it. Don't do anything. You want to win an argument? Stop talking. Anyway, you want to heal? Stop eating. Unless you're too thin. I'm not saying this to the person who's too thin. And I get it and I understand it. And now believe me, I never was able to get to the point of we talked about too much. If you've got too much pain, too much nausea and vomiting, and too much itching are like the three big ones that get in the way of everything we're talking about. You can't meditate. You can't do anything when you have all that. So we've got to address those. And the way we address it, fortunately, God gave us cannabis. And cannabis, when given in a suppository form at very high doses, with at least a 3 or 4 to 1 THC to CBD oil ratio rectally, so you don't get high, do high doses. You can get off opiates. You can get rid of some pain. So that's very, very important. With nausea and vomiting, it's very, very difficult. If you've got chronic nausea and vomiting, many, many, many times, not all the time, but many, many, many times, it's related to an overgrowth of yeast, of funguses in the body. And somehow we've got to get nystatin and swallow it, or you can drink colloidal silver, but and you can do the nystatin, and you can also do some. If you're too nauseous, then you might have to do IV. What's it called? Fluconazole, and you got it. It's really, really, really. I mean, I have had people with intractable nausea, and I personally couldn't imagine it. So, but for those of us who don't have intractable nausea, and for those of us who don't have intractable pain, and for those of us who don't have intractable itching, then what we need to do is learn to shut up. And we do the shutting up by listening to God. And God is right here in your breath. And believe me, when this breath finally goes away, this body will turn back to Earth. And it won't turn back to America. And it won't turn back to England. And it won't turn back to Australia. And it won't turn back to China. And it won't turn back to Russia. And why? Because we're Earthlings. We're not any of these nationalities. It's all nonsense. The body turns back to Earth. The body does not turn back to any other nationality. These things should be obvious, right? But for some reason, they, through their incredible educational system, have taught us to not believe what we see and hear and smell. I'd be like standing next to someone and they pass some very foul smelling gas and it's just you and them, and they're going, I don't know what happened. I didn't. Do you smell that? Yeah, but that they've got us believing that kind of thing. You understand? I hate to use such gross metaphors, but what am I going to do? I mean, trying to be. I don't want anything to be like almost understood. I'd like you to get it completely. So, anyway, poly MVA. I don't think much of it. Let's go to Instagram. We did Instagram. We did. Let's do some more. What time is it? Oh my God. Okay. Here's one. This is from Sao 86. Is there anything that can be done or taken when you have low blood pressure, and what causes it to be low? Sometimes it's normal, or 100/60, but times it's 90/55. When I had anesthesia for surgery, it drops low. They've dropped the head of the bed very low. At times I become... People talk a lot about high blood pressure. Yeah, so, a very good question. And a lot of people with advanced chronically fermenting cells will get also, will have low blood pressure. One of the things to look at is there is a often not spoken about hormone from the adrenal glands called aldosterone, which happens to help moderate sodium and potassium. And sodium has a lot to do with oncotic pressure, which is pressure within the blood on itself, and blood pressure and things like that. And so when you think of blood pressure, it's a combination of the strength of the heart beating versus the elasticity of the arteries and the effect of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems on the small little arterioles and stuff like that. So there's a lot that goes into it. So many times someone like this is probably dehydrated, oftentimes dehydrated. I don't know, you didn't mention anything about your heart rate at the same time. Because if blood pressure is low and heart rate is high, then it's really compensatory. But if it's not high, but I don't know what else is going on. Is there any ascites or leg edema, or is there any other third spacing or things like that? So, but aldosterone is a big one. Aldosterone is made by the adrenal glands. Anyway, I'd have to talk to you. Okay, we got this is a question here. Fish oil. What about fermented cod liver oil? Well, my thing about fish oil is I don't We don't need it. We need omega-3s and 6s. We need flaxseed. We need hemp seed. We need chia seeds. And we get it in other ways, but I'm just saying in a concentrated form, that would be it. The fish oils are high in the derivatives like EPA and DHA and stuff like that, but we don't necessarily need those high levels. We will make EPA and DHA that we need, and the AA, arachidonic acid, that we need from the omega-6s. We will make what we need. Okay, so we don't need too much. We need what we need, and nothing more and nothing less. And in terms of flaxseed oil and cod liver oil and stuff like that, okay, we need, what's better than oils are the actual seeds, because the seeds have lots of stuff in it that we need, other than oil. Okay, because remember, oil is a processed situation. You can use it though, like to make salads go down easier and taste better and things like that. So oils have their place, but you're not going to be getting most of your needs met by them. You want to get most of your needs, your essential oil needs, met by seeds. And here's the question: is what is the alternative to coconut oil? Really, there's nothing, because coconut oil is really it's a saturated fat, and you just don't find that usually in plants. So. I take an omega-3 supplement because I don't eat enough fish. Should I stop taking omega-3? No. The opposite. You don't eat fish. You need omega-3s. You need flax and chia and hemp seeds, and you need to make smoothies, and you need to make chia porridge, and you've really got to get on board. 6 tablespoons of chia a day for porridge with a fresh nut milk. But you don't stop taking omega-3s. They're essential. Essential means you need them, just like you have essential amino acids. In other words, if you don't get these certain amino acids, you can't make the rest, and you'll be malnourished. If you don't get the essential fatty acids, you'll die. So you need them. You can't stop. So here's a good question by Anastasia. What is human food? Human food turns out to be plants, fruits, what we call vegetables, nuts, seeds, roots, bark. That's human food. Cod liver oil, okay? No, Liz, it's good for cod. Humans don't need it. You need omega-3 at 6 tablespoons of flaxseed, chia seed in some fresh nut milk. Let it soak for a couple hours. You can put stuff on it, berries, whatever you want. Dab of honey is not going to do a big deal. Don't worry about dabs of honey here and there. Because if you need to be getting all this out. The benefits way outweigh many minor thing from a little bit of honey. So don't worry about it. Enjoy that. Eat that every day. You're not only gonna take, chia. I've said this a million times. Complete protein, all the fats you need which are necessary for healing. And it's got a soluble fiber, so it's really good for your colon bacterial production of short chain fatty acids. I'm wondering how effective fasting long enough to go into autophagy would have on cancer. I'm wondering how effective fasting long enough to go in. Okay. I don't know how much you weigh, and I can't really talk to you about how much you should fast, but in general, someone of a normal, or even what we we call it mildly underweight, you can do 40, 50 days usually. But I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying. So at least 3 days to get into full-blown ketosis. It takes 9 days to get the brain on into ketosis. Autophagy will start within, soon. Autophagy will start probably within, soon, 48 hours, 72 hours. But, prolonged fasts do a lot of cleaning up that can't be done any other way. On the topic of tick cancers and adaptive process, so that means not enough nutrition. No. Adaptive process means you're adapting to a situation where the biological needs are not being met. So, for example, you're not getting enough of omega-3s and 6s. You're not getting enough of that. Or you're getting too much of something that you don't need, and therefore you need to adapt, right? So if you're in a situation where your biological needs are being met, then your body will be functioning optimally, and that's called health. And if you're not, then your body has to adapt. Well, it's not got enough of this. It's got too much of that. So, whatever. So it needs to adapt. So that's what I mean by that. I hope that that's clear. And it's 9 o'clock our time. So, hi, is a fluke a parasite? Yes, it is. Which one helps with praziquantel is very great for flukes, liver flukes especially. Flukes are parasites. Yeah. And they hang out in the liver. So, yeah. Anyway, you all, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you being here. And if I offended you, that's because you weren't listening to my intent. Because I mean no harm to anybody. Well, except for the slob and man boobs and a few other people. But I mean, other than that, and it's not that I wish them harm. I just wish that they didn't have to breathe so long. It's time to stop breathing for some of them. Anyway, goodbye, you guys. Thank you again for joining me.